Cailin, welcome to Glasgow City. How does it feel to sign for City?
Yeah, it's really exciting to sign for Glasgow City. Obviously, I know quite a lot about them from the outside of the club, having played in Scotland for a few years, grown up playing in Scotland and playing in Hibs. So it's quite interesting being kind of on the other side of the rivalry and seeing what the club's really about, but have been really enjoying settling in so far.
Now, you're 22, and many people in the Scottish women's game that have watched the game have seen you playing for 4 or 5 years at least at a kind of senior level. But take it back, we'll talk about City shortly. Where did your love for football start? Where did you first kick a ball?
Well, I have an older sister who's 2 years older than me, and everything she did I wanted to do as well. So my dad kind of bought her a football and got her kicking about when she was about 4 years old, 4 or 5. So I just followed suit, and we both ended up kind of going through primary school and high school playing football together and into Thistle and beyond. So I think it was being competitive with my sibling that kind of got me into it and kind of fell in love with it from then.
I think you've said somewhere else in the past that I think by the time you're hitting your teens that you were kind of dreaming of being a professional footballer, which is probably you're the first generation that's maybe had been able to kind of realise that dream fully, because in the past it's been a lot more difficult even for players maybe 5-10 years older than you.
Yes, I think when kids kind of think, I want to be professional, then sometimes we don't recognise the barriers that there are, and I think it's only coming into this age and this kind of era of women's football that I realise how lucky I am to have come up through playing football at this time, because now the opportunities are actually there, because I think a lot of kids before me maybe dreamed about it but it was not quite possible. So I feel very lucky to be hitting it at the right time. Yeah,
absolutely. And you talked about Thistle, kind of probably, I guess that was the club that shaped how you're going to be as a footballer.
Yeah, I think so. I joined it when I was maybe 9 years old when it first started, and it took me, I got into all the youth national teams through Thistle into the Performance Academy, and then when I reached the top of that pathway, then I moved to Hibs and managed to continue my journey there. And
you talk about Hibs, I think probably City fans maybe 18 months on, I've just about forgiven you for putting that ball in the top corner in that League Cup final. So you kind of came through, you joined Hibs, you're kind of 17,
yeah,
and quite quickly you're a regular player. How big a step up was it playing SWP1 football at the sharp end as well?
I think I had so many experienced players around me at that point, and I kind of tried to learn a lot from them. I kind of looked up to different players on the team, and it was maybe a bit of a step up, but one that I was maybe prepared for, because I'd grown up with quite a few of them who then took that step as well. But I think, it's difficult, I think, when you get into that more elite environment to spend some time on the bench and work your way into the team and fill in on other positions and things. But it was quite mentally and physically tough probably doing that, as well as being in the National Performance Academy and continuing going to university. So it was quite a relief actually when I got a professional contract and I could start taking it down to one thing at a time rather than juggling everything up in the air.
Yeah, I guess that it's a big change. But when you were at Hibs, how did you enjoy the kind of, particularly the spell you were at the top of the table games against Glasgow City? You did win pretty much all the cups during your time there as well. What was that like to be in that intense battle while so young, while developing, while doing university and all that?
Yeah, well, it was really exciting, and I think because you always want to play, then of course there's the aspect of winning the cups, which drives a lot of players, but also for me it's the fact that if you get through the next round you get another game to play and you get another game to play, and we always thought that it was a privilege to play in finals because it's the games that are really intense and really tough, like those that you really want to test yourself in and thrive in, and then of course you get the opportunity to go to Champions League. So I think maybe only just coming out the other side of that and coming back to Scotland am I kind of reflecting on how amazing it was to have that experience, as you say, quite young, and to learn what the environment's like, so that now when we think about Champions League you can say, well, yes, actually I have been there before, even though I'm still quite a young player. So I think it maybe helps me approach other games with more calmness or more experience than maybe would be expected at my age, I suppose.
I guess that maybe comes into a bit of a baptism of fire, that the game against, I think, of Bayern Munich particularly, that was brilliant. I think you've mentioned one or two of the Bayern players are like, kind of, wow, you played against them in the past, so that must have been some feeling, but a bit of a sore one at Easter Road, just playing against those kind of quality players.
Yes, I think one of my highlights was shaking hands with Melanie Beringer at the end. I think we kind of accepted that we were going to defend for our lives and see what happened. But yeah, it was amazing to look at them and say, oh, you've had a couple of Olympic gold medals and, you know, played in World Cups and things. And yeah, that was an amazing experience, but I think it was great to be in the group games as well, because then we got more of a feel for the Champions League and working our way into the last 32. Yeah, and I think the club was quite proud of us for managing to compete with City for these trophies and to get into the Champions League as well.
So you spent 2020 in Sweden. How did that approach come?
I think we'd played against Piteå in January 2019. I think they came over for a friendly match, and yeah, they got in touch at the end of my season, and I went over to see what it was like, and it was minus 14 degrees, but it was a great town, and it was a very football town, all just focused on the women's team, and a professional contract that was just everything that I'd wanted. So took the opportunity to go there, and it's quite funny to come back and still be kind of in the 2020 season here, because it's like I've managed to squeeze in a season abroad and come back in time to join the Scottish season. So it's great to accidentally turn up in the place that's one of the few places that continued to play football throughout the COVID pandemic. So I feel lucky to have got that opportunity and also to keep playing throughout.
Yeah, and of course they're a side that won the Swedish League a couple of years ago, because Glasgow City played them as well in that 2019 before the start of the season. So it's quite a northerly place, not near the Arctic Circle, very cold, not a lot of light when you joined, because it only had a couple of hours of light, and then the opposite in the summer. And as you touched on, during the COVID period, kind of Sweden done things totally differently. You didn't play kind of competitive games, but a lot of friendlies. You trained kind of continue throughout. Yeah. So I guess that was really, as you touched on, really positive that you managed to get a season under your belt. What's the kind of football like? What's the kind of intrinsic differences maybe to what you've played in Scotland? It's
a lot more tactical, so I think they maybe have used video analysis, or they've had access to videos of matches a lot more, and I think that's increasing in Scotland. But over there, then it was definitely like you could see teams adapting to how the way each other plays, and it was a lot of kind of screening off players, and you had to be a lot smarter in defence. And I think at the beginning, especially, I was quite keen to go in and win the ball, because I think that's kind of what we do a lot in Scottish football, is go in and get close. But actually, you find a lot of players are just trying to move you out of position, and you have to kind of learn to bide your time and move at the correct moments, and engage at the right times as well. So I think that was a big thing. It was very physical as well. But yeah, and the intensity was quite high. But coming back to Glasgow City, it's quite nice to have a kind of similar intensity. But I think because everything was so physical in Sweden, it's almost a breath of fresh air a little bit when you come to City and are kind of back to more technical play as well. Mm-hmm. So it is, a different league, but every game is like a cup final. You're winning games by one goal, and it's a real battle every game. So I think it was exciting for me to get really competitive games every week, which I think is developing in Scotland. But when I left last year, then it was maybe just City and Hibs. You'd expect a big game, sometimes Celtic, but it's changing now, so that's exciting.
Yep, and as you kind of touched on, you've kind of had this season in Sweden, but nothing's changed in Scotland. We've effectively expunged the season, and we kind of start again, continuing from 2019. How did the kind of thought process, or how did the approach come for Glasgow City after your kind of season in Sweden?
Well, Scott's been in touch a few times before, and I think because everything's become more professional in Scotland, then the kind of opportunity to play here was one that was much more attractive than perhaps it had been in the past. I kind of wanted to get out of Scotland for a bit and experience other things, and moving to Sweden, my first time away from home, and I kind of was growing up as a person as well, and so then I could make a really football informed decision and say, actually, yes, this is the next step for my football career, and I've kind of had this experience abroad as well. But I think we were also in a sticky patch in Piteå where it was a bit, you were unsure what was going to happen next year. So I think it was important for me to have something set in stone, and to have something like Glasgow City to come to is just like a brilliant opportunity as a whole, and also something that's confirmed for next year was quite good as well. Yeah,
and it's 2.5 years, so you've kind of committed for quite a long term, which must be exciting, because the Glasgow City project, we've heard a lot in the Scottish game about other clubs. It could be 3 teams, 4 teams going for the league, but Glasgow City are quietly just building infrastructure in the background, taking on the challenge. So how does that excite you as well?
Yeah, I'm really impressed by how the club's progressing, both within the football side and also how they're engaging with other kind of social projects. And yeah, I'm really impressed that they're trying to improve themselves. And it's such a big difference to when I maybe talked to Scott a couple of years ago about what the setup would be to coming in now and having a really professional environment. Like, they're definitely taking steps here, and I think it's very nice to know that I can settle in here and kind of understand what the club's about and get fully engaged over a longer period of time rather than wondering in a few months where I would be going next. So I'm really pleased that I can have a longer term here.
How are you enjoying kind of working with Scott so far in your training sessions, and particularly the kind of characters there is in the squad?
It's actually very funny because when we play against Glasgow City, I've only got an impression of kind of focused and players who are wanting to get the result, and tensions get high on the pitch, so I was a bit wary of what it would be like. But everybody's been very, very nice, and it's great to see like the other side of players off the pitch as well. And it's kind of a sense of community in the club, and Scott's very approachable, and he's kind of brought me into the squad, which is great, and taken me to Prague to be with the team for the Champions League, which I think was important to bond with players as well. So it's been great to see the whole club from this angle.
And is it frustrating that you can't play until January, or because you've played the full season and you're just doing a bit of training, is it almost like nice to have a little break in a pre-season?
I think you always want to play when you can, but I think I knew that I would need to take this time out, and it's probably better for the body and for the mind to take a little bit of a break, and it's just good to be here to get the opportunity to settle in without maybe fully diving straight into the season. So I think I'm looking forward to January.
And we sit here at Broadwood, and I think of when you were at Hibs, success you've had in the cup competitions. You'll get to play in the pitch soon. Is it going to be weird kind of when we eventually get to play Hibs? Will it be weird when you're playing against a side that you're competing with and against City in a few weeks' time when we get to play them?
I think it'll be a bit strange, but I also feel the league's kind of chopped and changed a lot, and there's new players that have come in on both sides in the club, and I think I'm also returning as a different type of player from one that grew up at Hibs and maybe didn't know that much and was trying to learn from others, to one who's had a year kind of being professional and coming back in to another professional club. I think I've got more experience, and so it's almost coming in a different angle or seeing it in a different way, but of course there'll still be maybe an intense rivalry there.
Yeah, hopefully, let's say there's a few teams going to be still competitive at the top of the table as well. Some of the other teams have been so far this campaign. As I say, touched on Broadwood, no fans have been here yet. Just finally, have you got a little message maybe for the supporters? Hopefully we'll see them after winter at some point before the end of the season. Got a little message for them as you've joined Glasgow City?
Yeah, well, I just want to say that I'm really looking forward to playing on their team and in their team colours, and I hope that I can do a good job for them and give them more trophies to be happy about.
Okay, well, wish you best luck in your Glasgow City journey.
Thank you.